Now, we know you the ultimate.
But I said, if you gave me Mahomes, if you gave me Lamar Jackson with his great legs and Mahomes' great arm, or you gave me Baker Mayfield, who would I want? I would want Baker Mayfield, and the reason why is because Baker Mayfield...
I really think that now this is the worst case scenario for the San Francisco 49ers, is that they're going to have to cut ties with Jimmy Garoppolo if I were them. What? Oh my God! Wow, man!
In any event, Kyle Gibson is definitely my NL Cy Young Award winner. Rock on, Gibson.
And even
oh my!
No way! Oh my God! MVP! 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 That's right, he's him! What's going on, y'all? And welcome in to the Austin Reeves Coronation Show. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome in to Sports Weekly. My name is Isaiah Leong here on the IM6 Network as well as the MI6 Sports Network. And joining me today is a very familiar face. I don't think he's been on this show before. I think this is his first time ever on Sports Weekly. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guy, James Gonzalez.
Oh, boy. I am here, and I don't know how long we'll be here, but hopefully we'll get through the show without any technical difficulties.
Yeah, I mean, we already had, like, technical difficulties galore.
You did.
I did, yes. Before the show, internet issues, speaker issues. I mean, we had a video of Taylor Rapp playing when I
was that's not me.
Yeah, so we've had so many technical difficulties. Hopefully, we can somehow
that's all you, player.
Together for this entire program. But folks, if you're on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, etc., go ahead and follow the IM6 Network as well as the MI6 Sports Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. We're all over your favorite platforms as well as the places where you guys get your guys' podcasts. We are there as well. Do us a favor, give us a like or a follow. We would really, really appreciate it. But we got a jam-packed show for you guys tonight. We're talking about all the things that have happened thus far in the NBA playoffs. Are the Warriors done after the exciting Kings-Warriors game 2? The Lakers beating the Grizzlies in a very, very decisive game yesterday in Memphis. John Morant, Giannis, Tyler Hero gets hurt. We'll talk about that as well. And then we'll also talk about Jalen Hurts getting his well-deserved extension with the Philadelphia Eagles. And my guy Keaton Slovis has been named starting quarterback at BYU. Is he a Heisman frontrunner or a Heisman candidate this year? We'll let you guys know. But, folks, get your popcorn ready. It's going to be an exciting show. And, yeah, sit back and enjoy. We've got a great show for you guys. But having said all of that, let me turn the floor over to my guy, James Gonzalez, as he will be doing the hosting for tonight because your boy's got technical difficulties galore. So, James, take it away, buddy. It is all yours.
Oh, boy. Here we go. So, the Sacramento Kings up 1-0. They face the Warriors tonight in a great environment at Golden One Center in Sacramento. And this game went back and forth for a while. in the first quarter, I should say. And then the Kings had a great second quarter and then led throughout. Really close game after a while. And then the Kings won a 114-106. Draymond Green, I'm looking at it right now, and I just cannot believe what he did. I don't care if Sabonis was holding his foot or something, but you don't stop on someone like Christian Laettner. I mean, that was awful. And then Draymond Green was just like egging the crowd on, just being ignorant like he's going to be. And right now I found out via Woj that he's undergoing x-rays to his ribs and lungs. He's getting evaluated. Also he was hit in the jaw earlier in the game. So Sabonis had 24 points. Fox had 24. Malik Monk, who's awesome, had 18 points. Herder had 15, who the Hawks are really missing, by the way. And then Barnes at 13. The Warriors had 28 from Curry, 22 from Wiggins, 21 from Klay Thompson, 13 from Gary Payton II. Draymond with 8 before he was ejected, and Looney had 6, but he was in foul trouble pretty much the whole game. So the Kings, other from the first half, led the game pretty much the whole way, other from the first quarter. The home crowd really gave them the advantage there. Now they go to San Francisco. It would be the Warriors home court, and they're gonna have their fans crazy. The thing is, I wonder how many games Draymond Green will get in suspension. I would guess maybe 1 or 2. He's just a repeat offender, which doesn't help him. We've seen him in the past get suspended in a finals game. We've seen him in the playoffs get suspended in regular season doing similar stuff. So what was your reaction, Isaiah, to Game 2 and so far the overall series, which has been Sacramento 2-0 so far?
My reaction to this game, I'll get into the game before the Draymond Sabonis incident. My thoughts on the game is that the Golden State Warriors are toast. They are done. Me and James were talking before the show on the phone, and I conveyed to James that, hey, the Golden State Warriors look like the Memphis Grizzlies when the Memphis Grizzlies played the Golden State Warriors back in 2014 in the playoffs. It was a series where the Grizzlies were the veteran team. They had more experience than the young Warriors, and the Warriors were this young upstart team that not a lot of people really either knew about them or they really cared for them. And when you looked at that series and how it unfolded, the Golden State Warriors dominated that series in a series which a lot of people picked the Memphis Grizzlies to win, and they picked them because of the Grizzlies' playoff experience. They thought the Warriors were too young. They thought that, hey, this is an offensive-driven team. Their defense, which was pretty good at that time, but it wasn't tested. And when you looked at that series and how it unfolded, the Warriors dominated because of their young, fresh legs, their youth, their athleticism. They just made the Grizzlies look old. The Grizzlies with Mike Conley, with Marc Gasol, with Zach Randolph and the crew, they just could not keep up with the young Golden State Warriors. And now you're seeing a repeat of that, but it's the opposite. The Sacramento Kings look like the young Golden State Warriors, while those Golden State Warriors are showing their age. Those Golden State Warriors are looking like the Memphis Grizzlies of 2014. They look like they can't keep up with the Sacramento Kings. My apologies. The Sacramento Kings are playing with, they're playing with passion. They're fighting. They're treating every game, especially the first 2 games, like it's win or go home Game 7 type of a game. They just feel like they want it more than the Golden State Warriors, and they're punching and punching and punching, and the Warriors just are looking like, what the heck just hit us? They don't know what hit them. And yeah, the Warriors have been able to come back, but every time they come back, the Kings hit back, and the Golden State Warriors are then like, what the hell just hit us? And they are dazed and they're confused. And, Curry was phenomenal tonight for the Warriors, especially down the stretch. Klay Thompson was really good in this game. But I think you got to give the credit for this win for the Kings to De'Aaron Fox. He was lights out down the stretch for the Kings. He made big bucket after big bucket after big bucket for the Sacramento Kings. Domantas Sabonis was tremendous, dominating down low for the Kings, 24 points, 9 rebounds. But I think also the unsung hero of this game goes to Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter. Kevin Huerter was knocking down big triple after big triple after big triple after the Warriors, clawed back into this game, especially late. What brought it their comeback was either a Kevin Huerter 3 or a Kevin Huerter, layup, or a Harrison Barnes layup, or a Harrison Barnes cut to the rim for a two-hand slam. It was those big buckets by those veterans that really, really helped thwart the Golden State Warriors comeback. And, for the Warriors, moving forward, we don't know how many games Draymond's going to miss. I'll talk about the incident in a second. But Curry was tremendous, 28 points. Klay Thompson was tremendous, 21 points. But here's, James, why the Golden State Warriors lost this game. They lost this game because Jordan Poole didn't show up. He had 4 points off the bench. He had a number of turnovers tonight. He only played 16 minutes. Jordan Poole's got to show up in the postseason, and he's a guy that, is expected to be a big-time contributor for the Warriors, but he just didn't show up tonight, and that's why Golden State lost. They missed his scoring, especially late in the game, and I don't understand why Steve Kerr didn't put him in late in the game when Sacramento was just punching and punching and punching, and Golden State had no counter punch to answer Sacramento's punches. I just think that was a bad coaching decision by Steve Kerr, not putting Jordan Poole in, not giving the Warriors that threat instead of focusing on defense and playing Moody and DiVincenzo and even Gary Payton II. But I just think that if Kerr had put in Jordan Poole, you would have lacked some on defense, but at least Poole would have given you some scoring to answer Sacramento's runs and not have you be down as much as you did late in that game, and even in the second quarter. And, going to the Draymond incident now, Draymond Green should be suspended for the entirety of that series. That was a disgusting Bush League play in which, I understand Sabonis was grabbing onto his foot, but it doesn't excuse what Draymond did. If you look at what Draymond did after Sabonis let go, he in anger just violently stomps on the ribs and on the lung of Domantas Sabonis. And that's why you saw Sabonis screaming in pain on the court, because he let go of his leg and then Draymond just stomps right there. Like, it doesn't excuse Draymond, Sabonis grabbing his leg. It doesn't excuse Draymond just violently stomping on Domantas Sabonis' ribs and his lungs. I just think it was absolutely BS. It was Bush League. And, like you mentioned, James, earlier, Draymond is a repeat offender, and he's done a lot of this crap in the past. Like, he kicked Steven Adams in the nuts. He's pushed LeBron James, which got him suspended for that pivotal Game 5 of the NBA Finals. And now you got this. And I think, honestly, if you have to evaluate each of the 30 stuff that he's done, I think this might be the top of it all. This guy violently crushed another man's ribs. He violently stomps on another guy's lungs, and I think that he should be suspended, not just for one game, but suspended for the rest of the series, because he's already been suspended one game for doing stuff like this, and this was way worse than all the other stuff he's done in the past. So I think that he's got to be suspended for the rest of the series. If the NBA doesn't come down hard, it's just it just sends a message that, hey, we don't care about players doing Bush League stuff. We don't care about players doing stuff like this. We care about, making the games interesting. And I think that's not a message that you want to send. So I think that Draymond, he needs to be suspended for the entirety of the series. We should not see Draymond Green until the second round of the playoffs, if the Warriors even advance that far, or until next season.
That was definitely just the wrong move, and I was thinking one or two games the way the NBA rewards its notable players, but I like your suspension. The game before that, though, today was the Nets and 76ers. Of course, the Sixers won game one easily over the Nets. The Nets came out, though, in the first half. It was tale of two halves in this game, too, where the Nets came out firing. They were up 5 at the half, and they looked really good. And then there was some type of pep talk, either by Doc Rivers, Tobias Harris, and it was a matter of trust. An old Billy Joel song that got him fired up and ready to go. James Harden and the Suns rallying and really clamped down on the Nets defensively to take a 96-84 victory. The series headed to Brooklyn. Quickly, let me give you the stats of this game. So Maxey did awesome. He had 33 points. Embiid and Harris had 20. James Harden only had 8 points. So I don't know how he helped other from giving 7 assists. But Maxey, he's awesome. And sometimes he's like that third, fourth wheel in that group, because it all goes through Harden and Embiid. And then Harris just has to ball out. He gets paid, so he should be great. But Maxey is that one guy I think that gets picked on by the leaders of that team. But then looking at the Nets, though, Cam Johnson, remember they got him in that KD trade, had 28 points tonight. He was awesome. And he had one dunk over Joel Embiid, a poster dunk. It was awesome to see. Bridges had 21. Dinwiddie had 12. O'Neal had a couple of three-pointers. But Curry had 9. Russell O'Neal had, the 6 points. Finney-Smith had 8. Claxton played, but he didn't get any points. He has 6 rebounds. And then Joe Harris, man, he played 13 minutes and all he had was 1 rebound. He didn't score or assist on anything. They really needed him down the stretch, and that didn't happen today for Brooklyn. Now they go to Brooklyn, New York, and it doesn't look promising for the Nets, but I thought this series was going to be a sweep anyway. I feel like the Sixers can turn it on at any time. I really do. So what was your assessment of Game 2 between Brooklyn and Philadelphia?
If the Nets had any chance of even making this series competitive, this was the game they had to win. They got off to such a great start. They were, I believe, up by 8 with about 5 minutes left in the first half, and they were actually dominating. The Philadelphia 76ers, they could not get anything going offensively. In that first half, the Nets defense was clamping down. Cam Johnson, Spencer Dinwiddie did a fabulous job on Harden and Maxey in that first half, as well as Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris was in foul trouble early and often in this game. He had like 4 fouls, I believe, in the first half. But whatever Doc Rivers did at halftime, he woke them up because their offense got going in the second half. I mean, they went on they outscored the Nets 24-14 at the end of at the third quarter. Tobias Harris was tremendous, but Tyrese Maxey got hot in that second half, and Embiid and Harden weren't really a big factor in this game. And normally, when you look at it, James, when Harden and Embiid aren't a big factor in the Sixers playoff games, you would think, okay, Sixers lost. We're probably going to Brooklyn 1-1 because Harden only had 8, Embiid at 20. They only combined for 28 points, but the role players really stepped up, like Maxey, 33 points, DeAndre Melton, 9 points, clutch buckets at the end, Tobias Harris, 20 points, 12 rebounds, Paul Reed, 6 points off the bench. And that defense, they were just suffocating the Brooklyn Nets all game long. And, you just couldn't, if you're the Brooklyn Nets, they had a lot of open looks as well. They just couldn't knock them down. But the Sixers defense was just suffocating. And I think you got to give a lot of credit to Dave Yeager, their assistant coach and their defensive coordinator. This is a guy who prides himself on defense. He was a great coach with the Memphis Grizzlies during the Randolph Gasol years. He then went to Sacramento, and they nearly made the playoffs in his, I believe, second year coaching the Sacramento Kings before he got fired. Their defense was much improved in that season, and so he knows how to coach defense. And Dave Yeager reminds me a lot of Tom Thibodeau when he was in Boston with Doc Rivers. Dave Yeager is kind of like the Tom Thibodeau, but in Philadelphia with Doc Rivers. And he's that defensive coordinator that makes the defense very strong and makes the defense very suffocating. And Doc Rivers focuses on the offense and being the CEO, while Dave Yeager is a big part of the coaching staff because of his defensive knowledge and his ability to coach defense. And Dave Yeager drew up a great game plan, took the ball out of Cam Johnson's hands in the second half. Johnson had a wild first half, 20 points in the first half, just 8 points the rest of the way, shutting down Claxton on the inside. Mikal Bridges with only a modest 21 points. Spencer Dinwiddie was very quiet. Just kudos goes to Dave Yeager. What an absolutely phenomenal defensive game plan that he drew up. And when you look at the Sixers, I agree with you, James. This sadly is going to be a sweep, because if Brooklyn had any chance to make it competitive, it would have been tonight. And they just choked in the second half of this game.
Yeah, totally. I saw that coming, but the Lakers and your Lakers and the Grizzlies. Main reason you had your little shirt out. A big game from not only him, Austin Reeves, number 20. He had 23 points, but Rachi Hachimura, who they got earlier this season through trade. He did wonderful, and 29 points out of nowhere, honestly. LeBron had 21, Davis had 22, Russell had 19. The big story, though, was Ja Morant before he exited with his hand injury, in which he already had a hand injury because he had it bandaged. He landed on it. That looked really bad. And he went off. Remember, they're already without Steven Adams. They're already without Brandon Clark, two big men that it comes out they really need. You can obviously see that they struggled with that. As my brother says, down with the Kings, LA or Sacramento. I think the LA Kings lost to Edmonton today, if you're wondering about hockey, but Sacramento Kings up 2-0 in their series. Jaren Jackson Jr., I know he got the defensive award today. That was really cool to see. He had 31 in that game. Brooks had only 15. Bane had 22. Kennard had 7. Jones had 9. Aldemar with 8. Their three-point shooting wasn't as good as they should have been. As you see the score, and I was watching, I think, the second half of that game, and I just noticed it was LA's game. And then in the second quarter, Memphis kind of took over, evened up things. And then the Lakers just did it with hustle, with heart. It was really good to see if you're a Laker fan, not me. But, so they take game one. And the status of Ja Morant is in the air. It's really uncertain. I don't know if he's going to be available on, Wednesday, I think, will be game 2 of that series. So I can't say non-biasedly, but what did you think about your Lakers in Game 1 defeating Memphis like they did on the road, 128-122? Do you think they could take the series?
James, this series is over. If John Morant is done for Game 2 and the Lakers win Game 2, and you're going back to LA where at the Crypto.com arena where they haven't had full capacity crowds for playoff games since 2013. Remember, they did have a playoff game there, 2 playoff games there in 2021, but it was only with like 50% capacity because there were still COVID restrictions in place. So games 3 and 4 at the Crypto.com arena will be the first time the Lakers have had full capacity crowds for a playoff home game since they last made the playoffs before 2021 and 2020, which was, I think, the year he tore his Achilles with Howard and Nash back in 2013. So
against the Spurs.
Yeah, against the Spurs, exactly. So it's been 10 years since the Lakers have had a home playoff game with full crowds. So they're going to be amped up. They're going to be ready to go. They're going to be rocking the Crypto.com arena. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if Los Angeles has an earthquake caused by the fans out there because of how loud it is or how loud it's going to be. But if you go down 2-0, heading back to LA for games 3 and 4, just wrap it up, man. Just call it a wrap, and just pack your luggage and your suitcases and get ready for your trip to Cancun or the Bahamas because that's where you're going to be headed. But James, I know it's only game 1, but Game 1 turned the tide on this series. I know a lot of people were predicting, some had Lakers, some had Grizzlies. It was an evenly mix of who are you picking in terms of the Lakers or the Grizzlies. But I think the John Morant injury is going to turn the series in the Lakers' favor. You saw what happened after Morant went down. The Lakers just dominated. They went on a 15-2 run, I think, to close out the game. I know that it said the final score was 16. It was 128-112. Lakers won by 16 points. But if you actually watch majority of the game, before Morant got hurt, it was neck and neck. Both teams were trading buckets left and right. I still think that if Morant was healthy, it would have been a 7-game series. But now with Morant out and Steven Adams out, Brandon Clark is out, the Grizzlies just don't have the firepower to compete with LeBron, with AD, with, playoff Rui, playoff Austin Reeves, and, all the stuff on D'Angelo Russell as well, and all the guys that they have there. So I think that this series, sadly, is going to be over in 5 or maybe even 4, but I still think Memphis does take a game. I just can't see them getting swept. I think it's going to be over in 5, because the Morant injury just changes the entire complexion of this series. But about the Lakers, James, my favorite portion of the show, about the Lakers. Yesterday was validation for me and all the people on the Austin Reeves bandwagon from day 1. That dude, let me tell you something right now, James, and, to Chris Gonzalez, who's watching our show, shout out to him, my man. Thanks for staying up late to watch this show. Austin Reeves looked like a reincarnation of the late, great Kobe Bryant. He looked clutch down the stretch. He looked like the Black Mamba. I mean, did you see LeBron and AD? They were just like, you know what? We're just going to sit back and watch and let Reeves do their thing or do his thing. And Rui looked like Kawhi Leonard out there. I thought Kawhi with the Lakers. He looked like Kawhi Leonard out there with the mid-range, the spin move, fade away.
He made 3 pointers too.
Yeah, the threes out there, Reeves as well. I mean, those guys were balling. Like, I've never seen a game, James, where LeBron and AD have minimal impact in the second half offensively, and the Lakers win. And not only did they have minimal impact, but they won, and they won in a blowout. And yeah, you can say Morant got injured, yada, 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 but the the Lakers, whenever LeBron and AD have the minimal impact, they always lose. And for them to come in and Reeves showing the world that he's a future superstar, Rui Hachimura finally living up to the high draft pick that he was drafted with, D'Angelo Russell having a bounce back game, 19 points, 7 assists, kudos to him. I called him out before the game. I said, the Lakers need D'Angelo Russell to step up because they paid a lot to trade for him. And, you can't score only 4 points after proclaiming that you want revenge against the Minnesota Timberwolves and, only put up 4 points. You just can't. And he came back and responded with 19 points. Kudos to him. Jared Vanderbilt with outstanding defense on Ja Morant down the stretch, and also the Grizzlies' top players. But this was the Reeves and Rui show. And, man, oh, man, they looked like a young Kobe and a young Kawhi out there on the basketball court. And if they can put up these type of performances going forward, which they might be able to, because Rui has looked good with the Lakers, looks so much better than he did with the Wizards now that he's in LA. But if he could do that off the bench and Reeves can continue playing great, solid basketball, James, the Lakers are not only going to advance out of the first round, but they're going to win the whole thing. I don't think any team right now can stop the Lakers outside of Boston and Milwaukee probably. But Milwaukee, you got the questions with Giannis in the back, and, Boston's been inconsistent at times this year. But, the Lakers, really outstanding, impressive game one. Rui, Reeves, tremendous in this game, a showing out party for those two. And, I know game two is going to be tough because, the Grizzlies are going to come out energized. They want to play for Morant. So Lakers got to, keep that energy from game one. But just a tremendous start to the series. And, James, it's unfortunate that Morant got hurt. We'll talk about it more later on. But like you said earlier, when you were talking about the Morant injury, it looked like when I saw it, I thought he broke his wrist. It reminded me of the Steph Curry injury. I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about, James, but remember 2 years ago when Steph Curry goes up for a layup, the defender slides under him, and then he falls right on his wrist, and his wrist bends backwards. He ended up with a he ended up with a broken wrist. And I saw that injury, that Ja Morant injury, and I was like, oh, God, he broke his wrist. That was my immediate thought. Yeah.
He already has that bandage on there for some type of reason, too. So that's not going to help things out. What was it, the game before that, I want to say? No. It was Saturday. The Heat and the Bucks played. And, it was an even game starting off, but then Miami took off. They held on to win 130 to 117. Jimmy Butler led the way with 35. But the Heat had 6 players in double figures. Kyle Lowry only had 2 points, but he made some defensive plays. I was shocked. Kevin Love had 18 points. Hero had 12. Now, he's a big story because of his injury. That could have been, I want to say, I don't know if it's a broken finger or a hand. I don't know what happened to him, but he actually tried to shoot a 3 and then get back on defense, and then finally he said, I got to kill the third. After the third quarter, he can't play again. No, he missed it.
He missed it.
Yeah. No, that would have been something if he made it. Bam Adebayo at 22. Gabe Vincent, who really no one is talking about, out of UC Santa Barbara, he had 15. Strauss only had 8. He's up and down. It was all Jimmy Butler, playoff Butler coming into form. Now, the big story with the Bucks was Giannis. He fell on his back after, what was it? He was trying to make a layup, I think, on Kevin Love, I want to say, or I forget who he was jumping off of, or landed off of, and then landed down right on his back, but it looked really bad. He had to leave. He came back, actually, but then he left the game. He only had 6 points. Middleton at 33. Holiday with 16. Portis with a big 21. Grayson Allen with 12. Brook Lopez with 10. But they're really going to miss Giannis. I'm not sure if he's man, if they don't have Middleton, they're screwed. Well, they might not have Giannis, and that's even worse. So my brother is saying Memphis in 6 AD is going to choke or get injured, but who knows what's going to happen in that series. Now it's looking all daisies for the Lakers, sadly. And even Joe Ingles had 9 points in that game for the Bucks, but man, they're looking really bad right now. And the Heat, coming off the play-in wins, they're looking really good. So what was your take on the Game 1 win for Miami?
First off, James, did you realize that Grayson Allen plays on the Milwaukee Bucks?
Yeah, I was mentioning the scores for Milwaukee.
Oh, okay. The reason why I brought that up is because I was watching the game yesterday, right? I was watching the game, and I was like, Grayson Allen plays for the Bucks? No way. Like, I thought he was either with the Spurs or he was in the G League or he was out of the league. So that really shocked me. But going into the game in general, the Miami Heat are going to be a problem for the Milwaukee Bucks. And I know going into this series, I think a lot of people thought that, okay, the Heat looked like trash against the Hawks. They got whooped by Trae Young and the Hawks. And then they, played against the Bulls, and they played a lot better against the Bulls. They were, they played with more urgency, and they defended pretty well against the Bulls. So going into this series, a lot of people thought, I think we're kind of like looking at this like the Minnesota Timberwolves. They were like, oh, they made the playoffs, but nobody wants to see them. They're going to get swept. It's going to be a blowout every single game. But I think, we forgot to realize that every time the Miami Heat play the Boston Celtics or the Milwaukee Bucks, they always give them problems. It doesn't matter who's on their team. It doesn't matter how much stars the Bucks or the Celtics have, how decimated the Heat are. The Heat just always give the Bucks and the Celtics problems every single playoffs. And when you look at the Milwaukee Bucks against the Miami Heat, yeah, Giannis getting hurt was a big deal, but the Miami Heat were actually dominating this game even when Giannis was in the game to start the game. They got off to a 33-24 start. They outscored the Bucks in the second quarter as well. The Bucks didn't win any single quarter of this game until the fourth, and they only won the fourth quarter by just 1 point in the game in which it was already out of hand. Jimmy Butler was terrific. He had 35 points, 11 assists in 43 minutes. Bam Adebayo, 22 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. He played so much better. Gabe Vincent had 15 points. Kevin Love at 18. He was an unsung hero for the Miami Heat. Caleb Martin had 15 points. The Heat got great balanced scoring from everyone on their ball club in this game to support Jimmy Butler. And I think that was the impact. That was the biggest difference in this game, because when you look at it, the Bucks, Giannis only had 6 points in 11 minutes and he went out with the injury. But then Chris Middleton at 33. But then the rest of the team didn't really show up. Brook Lopez at 10. Drew Holiday had 16 points, 16 assists. Grayson Allen had 12. Bobby Portis was huge with 21. But you got to get more from Lopez. You got to get more from Drew Holiday. You got to get more from Wesley Matthews, Joe Ingles as well as Grayson Allen. And I think that's why the Heat ended up winning, because their defense was just so suffocating that it suffocated the Bucks to the point where they had their worst three-point shooting percentage game in the entire year. They shot only like 25% from downtown, while the Miami Heat were looking like the prime Golden State Warriors out here, shooting 55% from the field from three-point land. And I think that was the biggest impact of this game. The Heat's defense really impacted the Bucks. Maybe the Bucks' energy level was really low after, Giannis's injury. But there's no excuses. It's the playoffs. Next man up. And the Bucks, their three-point shooting, I think will get hot eventually. They'll probably get hot in game 2 and beat the Heat and blow them out. But for Miami, you already won. You won game 1. You won one game in Milwaukee, and now you get to go back home with at least a 1-1 or maybe it'll be better and you have a 2-0 lead, but Miami's going to be competitive with the Bucks. And I think that they're going to give the Bucks a big challenge. And when I look at it, this is not your typical 1-8 matchup. This is like a 1 versus a 5 or 1 versus a 4 matchup. This is not your typical 1-8 matchup. And I think that the Bucks should hunker down because they're in for a long, brutal fight against the Miami Heat. And Chris's Boston Celtics, and Ben, if you're watching, and Shree, if you're watching, the Boston Celtics got lucky they avoided the Miami Heat because I kept saying the Celtics, if they play the Heat are going to give the Celtics problems. And luckily, Miami didn't show up in that play-in game against Atlanta, James, because if they play Boston, I think they'd give the same problems they're giving Miami or giving Milwaukee to Boston right now. And you don't want that if you're a top seed. You don't want a brutal, all-out war in a first-round series. You want to save your energy for the later rounds. So, but this is going to be a good series, and who knows? Miami could win this depending on Giannis's injury. If Giannis has to miss game 2, if he has to miss game 2 and 3, I could see the Heat being up 2-1 or being up 3-0 heading to Miami or going to game 4, and then at that point, it's going to be a wrap.
Now, unfortunately, there's been major injuries to players and difference makers these first two games of these series. For some, after the first game, I should say, the Grizzlies lost Ja Morant in that fourth quarter with a brutal hand injury. The Giannis had the Bucks. Well, the Bucks saw Giannis depart in the second quarter on a real scary fall right on his back. Resulted in a back contusion. And then Miami Heat guard Tyler Hero was lost on a broken hand, the shooting hand, diving after a loose ball. And between all of those guys, those three guys, really quick, which one is the most consequential? So, meaning like the most meaningful. Is it Giannis? Is it Morant? Is it Hero? For me, I would think it's Giannis just because the Grizzlies were without Morant, remember, with the whole suspension, and they had a great record without him. And they were without Clark and without Adams as well. So they know how to do this. Without Giannis, it seems like the Bucks, they're just centric with Middleton, but everybody else now has to start shooting threes. And then Lopez has to do more, and Portis has to do more. And then Hero, he was just one of those guys that you could depend on, not only with the three-point shooting, but any type of shooting. And can, heat up the game. So for me, I think it's Giannis. But what's the biggest loss out of those three to you?
All three are unfortunate, and it just sucks that, we're not going to see what would have been an insane playoffs be even more insane, because I think with all three healthy, I think that this would have been the most insane playoffs we've seen in the last 5 to 10 years. But when you look at which injury is the most meaningful, Giannis, obviously, because the Bucks are, built around him. When you don't have your superstar and you only have the role players, it's like, they can't really do much. Hero, because Miami, I feel like, Jimmy Butler is there, but Hero's like that bat or the Robin to Jimmy Butler's Batman. Jimmy Butler leads them, but when Jimmy Butler gets doubled and triple teamed, who's the guy that always, bails them out when they're in an offensive funk? It's Tyler Hero, because he can get his own shot. He can shoot the three extremely well, so that's a big blow. And then Morant, he's the star player of the Grizzlies, and without him at the helm, I just think the Grizzlies can't match up with the Lakers. So for me, I'll probably say the most consequential injury, I got to go with Giannis. I think I got to agree with you, James. I think it's Giannis because, like you mentioned, the team is just built around him. And, with the others, like the Grizzlies, they can play a lot. I think that they can still be competitive without Morant. They've shown. Dylan Brooks, however, has got to step up. I mean, you can't be talking all that trash that you want LeBron and then get outshined by Austin Reeves. I mean, that just can't happen. But I think the Grizzlies can be competitive. Do I think they'll win the series? No. but I think they can make it competitive games in that series. But the Bucks, if Giannis has to miss games 2, if he has to miss game 3, if he has to miss game 4 because of the injury, because he can't, tolerate the pain, then I think the Milwaukee Bucks are done. And it's a shame because they're the 1 seed, and we rarely see the 1 seed get upset by the 8 seed as much as we do in college basketball, where we see these upsets between the 1st seed and then the last seed. But if Giannis is done, the Milwaukee Bucks are done. Middleton can only carry you so far. Grayson Allen, Drew Holiday, Bobby Portis, they're good, nice players, but they're role players. And Brook Lopez as well, they're role players. I don't think that they can win a series against the Miami Heat with Giannis if he's hurt. So for me, I'll go with Giannis. And that injury, James, when he landed on his back, I was scared that he was going to be taken out on a stretcher because that fall was scary. I mean, he landed like boom right on his back. Like, that was awful. Like, he could have broken his back easily with how he went up in the air and then he just landed boom right on his back. Like, that was just nasty.
The same thing with Morant. I thought right away when he was in the air and he was falling down, I said, oh, crap. The problem is, too, and I always heard Charles Barkley say this, was like, hey, don't use your hands to brace yourself. Like, try to fall on your sides or fall on your stomach or something, but never use your hands to brace yourself. And unfortunately, we saw that with Ja Morant. And he's been known to do that, though, to get lost in the air, so to speak, and crash down. Because you saw he was trying to posterize Hachimura, I think it was, right? On that dunk.
AD, actually. I think it was AD.
AD, one of those light-skinned guys, yeah. But yeah, he was trying to dunk on one of them. And it's hard. It's just human nature to try to, brace for a fall. It really is. Chris saying worst injury right now is Jaylen Brown with the index finger. The thing is, as we segue to that, it looks like they don't really need him, even though he scored 29 points. He was a leading scorer for the Celtics. Tatum with 25. Derek White, that was a good trade they made. He had 24. Robert Williams, the third, had 12. Smart with 11. They were awesome. I'll tell you what, the first half, it was a tale of 2 quarters. I mean, Hawks were up 29, or no, Celtics were up 29-19. And then the Celtics just blew them away, 45-25. And I think it was, 74-44 at the half. And you just knew that game was over. And I know the Hawks tried their best to come back. No way, though. The Hawks ended up losing to the Celtics in game 1, 112-99. It's what I think the Hawks kind of figured what would happen, that the Celtics are too good for them. Trae Young had 16. Murray had 24. Capella and Collins had 12. Hunter had 11. Bogdanovic had 9. And this is where I think Herter, with him being with Sacramento, this is where it hurts because they don't have that outside threat like they used to. Now it's just all Trae Young outside. And then Murray can do it as well, but he also has to do a little more. So it's a lot to depend on. For me, I think this series is going to be a sweep, or what they call a gentleman's sweep, where it's in 5 games. You give Atlanta maybe 1 game at their home arena, but it's not looking good. So what do you think about, game 1 of that series with Boston beating Atlanta?
My thoughts on it was that the Boston Celtics, and I might need to get a bag to throw up in after I say this, because I'm a Lakers fan, and we're taught not to like the Boston Celtics or say anything positive about the Boston Celtics, but the Celtics look like the best team in basketball in the first half. In the second half, it was a different story because I know they probably took their foot off the gas pedal because they were outscored by the Hawks 55-38, and that can't happen, but they were up 30 at halftime. But the Celtics looked like the best team in basketball in the first half and throughout the game. They dominated when they had to. They took their foot off the gas pedal. But the thing with the Hawks is that the Celtics defense was just suffocating. I mean, Trae Young only had 16 points in the entire game. He was struggling in that first half mightily, and he only finished with 16. DeJounte Murray stepped up with 24. Clint Capella at 12 points. John Collins at 12 points. But the guys that are your big time players on your team, like Trae Young, Clint Capella, John Collins, they got to have more than what they produced in game one if the Hawks were to even have a chance of stealing game two in Boston. But James, my biggest fear with the Celtics, though, is that did the second half give the Hawks optimism? Because that's all it takes. You just have a run and then it gives you optimism and then it leads to a better start, and a better start leads you to having a better game two. So I expect Atlanta will come out better in game two. I think that after their amazing second half in which they outscored the Celtics, I believe it was like 58-37, that they can hang with the Celtics. Now they have that belief. But I think you got to have more from Trae Young. Trae Young's got to at least score 40 for the Hawks to have a chance. If he scores 16 and he's getting pounded by the Celtics defenders like he did in game one, then it's going to be a sweep. But Trae Young, if he can score 30 to 40 points a game in every game in this series, I know it's a big ask for him to do it, but then I think the Hawks can at least take one game and make it a gentleman's sweep or make it kind of competitive. But Trae Young is that difference maker, and he's got to show out. He can't have a bad shooting game like he did in game one, or else the Celtics are going to sweep the Hawks, and every game is going to be like a 15-point to 20-point blowout.
Now, in the other Western series out in Phoenix, I thought the Suns would sweep the Clippers, but somehow the Clippers stole game one. And it was defensively done perfectly. Kawhi scored 38 points. Westbrook, even though everybody was saying, oh, he was 3 for 16 or 3 for 18, 19, whatever it was, he had a key game-saving block on your boy, Devin Booker, to help the Clippers, again, steal game one, 115-100. And I was really shocked by that. I thought of the worst. I thought the Clippers were going to get blown out. But this game, man, the Clippers right away held it on in the first quarter. But then Phoenix came back second and third quarter. Then the Clippers came on at the right time defensively in the fourth, especially, and made it happen. Again, Kawhi had 16, Zubac with 12, Gordon with 19. You're saying Devin Booker, who we're rocking with Reeves now. Terrence Mann had a 10-point game. Norman Powell had 14. Plumlee had 11 rebounds along with the 7 points. But, man, even though Russell Westbrook had 9 points, he had the 10 rebounds, 2 shy of 2 assists shy of a triple-double. Man, they did the job on the Suns. I mean, I know Kevin Durant had his. He got his at 27. Craig, though, had 22. Torrey Craig stepped up big. Aiden had 18. Booker had 26. But Chris Paul, even though he had 11 rebounds, 10 assists, he only had 7 points. So he was more of a distributor in this game one. But, man, it doesn't look good for his playoff resume if he continues not to show up in games. I mean, I'm all for it, and I remember him doing that in some playoff games with the Clippers, Rockets, Oklahoma City. He tried his best in that first round against Houston, but man, I was really shocked by that the Clippers won this game. I think they play tomorrow, I want to say. Excuse me. Yeah, tomorrow. Tomorrow, and I expect the Suns to come out better, Chris Paul to come out better and take game two. But, hey, I'll take the game one win. Without Paul George, I didn't think the Clippers would get a game at all in this series. I was really shocked by that. So what was your opinion on game one with the Clippers at Phoenix?
My opinion of it is that I think this is shaping up to be a legendary series, James. I think that, both of us are shocked because I don't think that when this series first came out that it was going to happen between the Clippers and the Suns, that we thought it was going to be competitive. I mean, I had the Suns winning, I think, in 6. but that was only because I thought the Suns would, hit the snooze button and sleep through one of the games like you are right now. And I think the Clippers would have won one game in their own arena. But when you look at the game yesterday, the Clippers got off to an amazing start. I mean, the Suns looked like they were really sleeping in that first quarter. They were up, they were down 30-18. They were down, I believe it was like 35-21 at one point in that game. Kevin Durant had 0 points with 5 minutes left in the second quarter. He ended up with 27. He turned it on as we went to the half and into the third quarter and the fourth quarter. DeAndre Ayton had 18 points, but he was getting outshined by Zubac in this game. And also Devin Booker, he had 26. He was tremendous. 26 points, 3 assists, 1 rebound. But I think the biggest takeaway from this game, James, is that this is going to be a great series. And I think that, and I'm all for it because, I want each series in these playoffs to be as legendary as possible. I want it to, because that's what we live for, the playoffs, to have it being, one team wins one game, another team wins another. Then we have, a split in the next 2 games, and then it ends up being, game 7. That's what we want to see. We want to see long series and, legendary performances. And when this series came out, it was billed as Kawhi versus Durant, Booker, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook as well. There's star power in this series, and the star power showed out with Kawhi's 38, Kevin Durant lighting it up, Booker lighting it up. I think it's going to be a great series, and your Clippers, they did their job. They won 1 game in Phoenix. Now Phoenix has to take care of business. If Phoenix loses game 2, then that's going to be tough for them because I don't see them winning 2 games in LA. So they got to win tomorrow. This is Phoenix's game 7 tomorrow against the Clippers because they can't afford to lose 2 games at their own home and expect to come back. But Chris Paul's got to do a better job. I think he needs to be more aggressive. Yeah, he was great passing the ball and defending, but he's got to be aggressive scoring the basketball, especially when Durant doesn't have it in that first quarter, the midpoint of the first half. Booker turned it on late, but Chris Paul, you got to be more aggressive than you were yesterday. And I think that if he is, I think the Suns will win tomorrow. But this is going to be a great series, and I can't wait to see Kawhi duking it out with KD and Russell Westbrook duking it out with Devin Booker and Chris Paul. But Russell Westbrook saved that day for you guys yesterday with that block on Devin Booker where he blocks it and then in midair, he just takes the ball, swipes it off Devin Booker's body. That was a great play. And I think that, that should have been a foul, though,
No.
It should have been a foul on Westbrook. Yes,
No.
He hit him right in the hand, man.
He got ball first.
But he did get hand as well. But I think, if Westbrook could keep his temper controlled and stop fans going into the locker room and fighting fans.
No, you know what that was? That was like a little lounge area, and the players have to go through there. It's like the Cowboy Stadium with Jerry Jones, or how they built that. But, man, they made it like so accessible to get right up close to the players. That's what's crazy about that area. They didn't really think it through. And he was going out. I think this was at halftime or something.
Yeah.
Or because he was going out back to the court. You would have thought it was after the game. But I think it was halftime. But anyway, it was just I'm not defending Russell at all. Remember, he's kicked out somebody before a game in Sacramento because someone was going like this to him. I hate how soft the players are like that. It's just horrible. Like, you would see Michael Jordan be like, okay, what? Okay, I'm going to show you, and go destroy your team and make you go home, sad at night, make you drive home sad. There's no more of that, and that's what sucks about that. And I'm glad because I was going to bring that up. It was like, unfortunately, there was the Westbrook thing. I know the league's going to look at it. Maybe there'll be a suspension for his language, especially with the kid right there. But the dad, again, he's just an easy target, and then he welcomes it too. And it's like Draymond too. It's like Draymond and LeBron, Westbrook. They're all the same when it comes to that. Really quick, I know it's not in the script, but Game 1 of Denver and Minnesota, 109-980. 109-80. The Nuggets defeat the Timberwolves, and I told you earlier, I'm getting so sick of seeing the Timberwolves, man. I mean, they have a puncher's chance, get it? But they're probably not going to win a game in this series. Speaking of him, Rudy Gobert had 8 points. Cat had 11, which isn't going to cut it. Anthony Edwards, 18. Slow-Mo had 11. Noel had 12. Denver, you look at Jamal Murray being back this season and for the playoffs, that's really going to help him. Michael Porter Jr. had a facial. He scored 18. Gordon with 13. Jokic the same. Caldwell Pope had 15. And then Brown with 14. So the Nuggets did it all. I mean, that'll get it done against the Timberwolves. But when it comes to playing the better teams that will make it, which could be your Lakers, they're gonna need more, I think, of themselves. And the last game you mentioned here with the NBA playoffs, it was Go ahead.
Before you go to the next game, I just wanted to give just a quick thought on that game between the Wolves and the Nuggets. That game yesterday it validated what I said on I think Kicking It with Cruz that we did on Friday night, that the Oklahoma City Thunder losing was not just a bad loss for the city of Oklahoma City, but it was a bad loss for the entire United States of America minus Minnesota, because nobody wanted to see Rudy Gobert getting roasted and toasted by Jamal Murray and, getting outshined by freaking Jeff Green out there on the court, and nobody wanted to see Karl Anthony Towns just disappear into the playoffs like he always does. Like we've seen this Minnesota team. It happened last year against the Grizzlies. They put up a valiant fight, but what happened? Towns did not step up. Russell did not step up. And Gobert, when he was with the Jazz, he always gets roasted and toasted in the playoffs. Like it just proved that nobody wanted to see Minnesota. Everybody wanted the Wolves to just go home, not even show up for that game against Oklahoma City. And we all wanted to see Oklahoma City, the fresh style, the fresh players they have there, going up against Denver, and Denver having to face the style of play that they fear the most, and that is a run and gun style of play, because they can't keep up with it and they always get tired. So that game just I know I was talking to my guy Stephen Wang, who's giving me nonstop flack after the Wolves beat the Thunder, because I kept telling him, hey, heart and soul over talent. I don't care if you're the most talented. I'd rather take Patrick Beverly over Rudy Gobert. But and I told him this, I'm not going to watch a single minute of the Nuggets-Wolves game. I ended up watching the entire second half of it, but it was a disgraceful performance. The Nuggets just clamped down. They suffocated the Wolves, and Minnesota, the stars just disappeared like they usually do. Rudy Gobert got outshined by freaking Jeff Green, and also he got outshined by some dude named Bruce Brown Jr. And Karl Anthony Towns, same thing, 11 points. He got outshined by Bruce Brown, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and not Jeff Green, but DeAndre Jordan looked better than Karl Anthony Towns out there. I know Towns.
I wouldn't say that.
He had 10 points, but DeAndre Jordan was more effective. So, the Wolves are done. The Wolves might as well pack it in. They're going to get swept, and they're probably going to lose every game by 15 points because their three-point shooting can't compare with what the Nuggets have.
So the opposite of that, let's get away from that. The series that I really love to watch, and they play, I think, tonight, or tomorrow, I should say, the Knicks and the Cavaliers. Game 1 was in Cleveland. Game 2, of course, will be there. The Knicks held on to win 101-97. It was a great back-and-forth game. I really enjoyed watching that. Julius Randle poured in 19, but Jalen Brunson, who's been awesome for New York, I think he's the reason why they were not in the play-in, but they had a playoff spot. Just think about that. If they didn't sign him, it totally would have been a play-in situation for New York. They would have been like where the Bulls are. And then Josh Hart had 17 points. Was a big surprise. He not only does it defensively, but he rebounds as well. He got 10, just like Randall did. RJ Barrett, only had 7. Maybe he could do more. Obi Toppin had 9 points. I was shocked by that. With the Cavaliers, Evan Mobley, he only had 8 points. Rocco only had 6. Jared Allen, 14. Garland had 17, but he needed more. LeVert needed to score more. He only had 3. But Donovan Mitchell, man, his back was hurt. He was carrying the team with 38 points. And remember, I always mention this when I think of Donovan Mitchell. Remember, the Knicks had a trade deal to the Jazz, and they botched it somehow last summer. And instead, Mitchell goes to the Cavaliers, and he's facing the Knicks. And that's the funny part about this. But the Knicks hold on to get game 1, and I can't wait for game 2 of this series. I hope the series has everything in store, and I hope it goes 7 like you mentioned with all the series. But what was your impressions of game 1 between New York and Cleveland?
My biggest takeaway was what I said about the Clippers-Suns series. And that is, I think this series is shaping up to be a legendary series. The Knicks, give credit to them. Their physicality really throttled the Cavs. The Cavs didn't have any answers for Julius Randle. They didn't have any answers for Mitchell Robinson down low. And also Jalen Brunson was as advertised. I mean, he had 27 points in 29 minutes. He made clutch bucket after clutch bucket after clutch bucket when the Cavaliers were making the run to get back into the game. And also Josh Hart had 17 points, 10 rebounds, and he was a big part of why the Knicks won because of the scoring, his three-point shooting, as well as his defense. And I don't know if James, if you saw what I just typed in the private chat to you, but there's what's going on that Josh Hart may be out for game 2 tomorrow because of an ankle sprain that he suffered in game 1, and that's going to be a huge blow if he has to miss that game because of his defense on Mitchell and Garland. But I think for the Cavaliers, the reason why they lost this game was because you look at the stat sheet, right? Donovan Mitchell had 38 points. He had 8 assists in 44 minutes of play. Darius Garland, who's the number 2 for Cleveland, he only had 17, and he didn't really was not much of a factor in this game. Jared Allen as well as Evan Mobley, the kid from USC, 8 points, 11 rebounds, and Isaac Okoro. They didn't really get much from guys not named Donovan Mitchell. They got to have better performances from Darius Garland, Jared Allen. I know he had 14 points, 14 rebounds, but they got to have better performances from Garland, Karis LeVert off the bench, Cedi Osman, as well as Evan Mobley, because if they don't, and it's just Donovan Mitchell carrying you, you can only get so far with Donovan Mitchell carrying you before he runs out of gas. And I think that's what happened in this game where Mitchell was doing great. Mitchell was carrying them, but he just ran out of gas. And he was basically playing 1v5 out there for a lot of this game. And you just can't have that if you're Cleveland. You got to have more scoring output from the rest of your guys or else you're gonna be in major trouble. And this game tomorrow for the Cavaliers is going to be the biggest game in Cleveland's Cavaliers history outside of Game 7 of the NBA Finals.
I was going to say,
you lose tomorrow, you go down 2-0 at home, going back to New York. James, the series might be done because I just don't think the Cavs can go into New York with their lack of playoff experience and win 2 games at home and avoid going down 3-1. Like, that's going to be a very tall order for the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers have to win tomorrow. They got to get their three-point shooting in order tomorrow. And if they can do that, then I think they can win because I think the Cavs in this series can outshoot the Knicks and outscore the Knicks. The Knicks have to win by physicality and just grinding it out in the paint, kind of like how the Miami Heat does it with Eric Spoelstra and get muddy with the other team. But if the Cavs can play their style and have a running gun style of play and, shoot the ball like crazy and their shots go in, then the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think, are going to win this series.
Okay, let's get into our NFL segment. So, months after leading the Eagles to the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts and Philadelphia agreed to a massive 5-year extension worth $255 million. Let me borrow $2,000, Jalen. The deal doesn't start until next season, so Hurts will make the $4,204,000 this season coming up, and then it shoots up to $51 million in each of those 5 years. So damn. And that's good news for Justin Herbert. That's good news for Joe Burrow, Josh Allen whenever his time comes up, and then maybe for Lamar Jackson. And this is where I think, and shout out to the agent who got the deal done with Jalen Hurts. I forget her name, but she's getting all the pub today. Lamar Jackson should really sign with her to get his deal done. I mean, it goes to show you the stupidity of not having an agent nowadays. I mean, he's screwed for life. But anyway, back to Jalen Hurts. Their future is still bright. You still have a really good defense, a really solid offensive line, pretty good running game, and it all starts with him doing the rugby scrum kind of run where everybody pushes him forward for 2 yards that they need. They have still a great receiving corp. A.J. Brown is there for a while. Devontae Smith, eventually they'll have to pay, but he won't be as much as A.J. Brown. You get great tight ends. It's just all there for Philadelphia right now. And you can even argue he might be the best quarterback in the NFC when you look at everybody else. Aaron Rodgers may be out the door, maybe retiring, maybe to the Jets. I don't know. Kirk Cousins you can't trust. But it looks like right now Jalen Hurts, if you don't believe in Dak Prescott, is, like I said, the best quarterback in the NFC. But this was a great deal, I think, because the GM said, and the ownership of Philadelphia said, hey, we want to get something done right away. We don't want to play no funny business. You're our guy, and for years to come. So I think that was great. Philadelphia took care of that right away. So what do you think about his extension, Jalen Hurts, for the Eagles, Isaiah?
Believe it or not, I don't like it. And here's why. I don't like the deal because I don't think that Jalen Hurts is worth $50+ million. I think that's absolutely insane. I think that he's a quarterback that has a lot of flaws. And I think that last year was, and you could say, like, I'm a salty old Niners fan, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But I've been saying this for the last 3 years, ever since he got drafted, that this guy is a product of the talent around him, and he's a product of the system. He's got a great offensive line. He's got, Kelsey. He's got, Landon Dickerson. He's got Lane Johnson there. Like, he's got, I think he got Andre Dillard as well on that offensive line. So he's got a stacked offensive line. And when you were watching him play last year, he got all the time in the world to throw the football because he had a stud offensive line. And when you look at his weapons, he's got A.J. Brown, he's got Devontae Smith, he has Dalton Schultz, or not Dalton Schultz, Dallas Goedert, who has emerged as one of the best tight ends in the NFL. He's got amazing weapons around him. And when you pay a quarterback that much money, $51 million, you're going to start to lose a lot of those weapons. You're not going to have enough money to pay the offensive line. You're not going to have enough money to pay Devontae Smith. That's why I anticipate Devontae Smith will be traded or walked in the next couple of years when he is eligible to get paid. You're just not going to have a lot of money for those to pay the weapons. And I think that when you look at Jalen Hurts, he's a product of the system and he's a product of the weapons around him. I don't think he's really that good of a quarterback. I think he's a decent quarterback, but I don't think he's like one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. I think that, his passing abilities is really in question. I think he did improved last year. Don't get me wrong, but I still don't think he's really that good of a passer. He's a tremendous runner. He's a tremendous power runner as well. But when you look at these mobile quarterbacks, James, they have a shelf life. And once you reach that shelf life, you lose your mobility, you lose your athleticism, and then you're rely on being a pocket passer. And I just don't think Jalen Hurts can be that competent pocket passer. Because remember, when he was rushed last season, he was only a 51% passer, or a 51% completion percentage when it comes to passing the football, when he actually had pass rush, when he could no longer stand just in the pocket, have a picnic, drink a bottle of wine, and still be able to throw the football like he did for majority of the year. So I am interested to see how this deal is able to impact the weapons. Like, what happens when you can't pay Devontae Smith and he has to walk? What happens when, Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, who are near the end of their careers, retire and you don't have that great protection that you used to have? And what happens when the athleticism is gone and you can't run around like you used to? Are we going to be in this situation where it's Lamar 2.0, where you see Hurts just continuously get injured because he doesn't have the offensive line to support him? Or are we going to see kind of like a Colin Kaepernick situation where he is still healthy, he is good physically, but the lack of being a great passer is going to expose him as not a good quarterback? Because that's what ended up, with Colin Kaepernick. He ended up having to become a pocket passer. Teams put a spy on him to stop him from running the football like crazy, and his lack of being a great accurate passer ended up exposing him and ended up kicking him out of the league. So I think for Jalen Hurts, I'm glad that he got paid. I'm glad. Major props to the agent for helping him land this type of a contract, but I still have major question marks when it comes to him as a passer and his accuracy. And I think that is a lot of questions on other people's minds when it comes to his passing and his accuracy. But also for Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, as well as Lamar Jackson, they got to be popping their champagne. They got to party like there's no tomorrow, because, with Hurts getting $50+ million, Burrow's a better quarterback at this point. And I think that Burrow could end up seeing like 55 to 60 million with the way that he's playing. And with Hurts getting paid that much money, and Herbert's going to get his contract. So, man, oh man, the quarterback market just keeps skyrocketing, and soon, James, you might see Brock Purdy get 60 to 70 million with the way the quarterback market is. I'm just saying.
No.
The market's going.
No. And I want this to be clear. I was the only one who believed in Jalen Hurts around here when he came out of Oklahoma. I just want that to be known. I'm the only one. Like, I'm the only one that said, "Oh no, don't worry. Once you give him the shot, he'll thrive." And I'll tell you what, though, all that money we're talking about, like the 51 million, every year. Remember, everything is going up, so it's not as crazy as what we think now, as what it's going to be later on. And Mahomes, unfortunately, he's going to make a little less, but he's the best in the league. That's just crazy how that is. Some other NFL news. So Dan Snyder, after years of rumors and pleas for him to sell the team, has agreed to sell, but it's not official yet, his Washington Commanders to a group that's led by Philadelphia and New Jersey Devils owner, I believe, Josh Harris, and Magic Johnson, my favorite basketball player of all time, for $6.5 billion with a B. I wonder if it's going to happen. It's all in the hands of the NFL. The league office has to get it signed and done, and I think they'll do it, because for years, I think everybody, all the owners hate him now. So I think it's going to get done finally. But the reminder is like, hey, they still play in an awful stadium. Their team name is not well received. There's a lot to fix for that new ownership that may come in. They need to do a lot in the community. They need to figure out a place for a new stadium. They can't do in Washington. It has to be outside of Washington like it is now in Maryland, I want to say. Landover, Maryland, yeah. So they have to figure out a space outside of Washington, which is very difficult. But if you're the owner of that team, you have a lot to clean up. The mess is huge. So what do you think about this possible sale? Dan Snyder finally selling his Washington franchise.
Well, when it went down, my reaction was, hallelujah, miracles are possible, because I could not believe it for years, James. We've been hearing, oh, Dan Snyder, please sell the Redskins. I mean, the Commanders, my bad, the Commanders. We were the Redskins before. Please sell. But it was kind of like the A's owner, right? Where A's fans were begging, please sell the team, please sell the team, please sell the team. But he would never do it. And you would think like, okay, he's never going to sell. There's no way he's going to sell. And that was kind of what we thought of with Schneider, was that he was never going to sell, and that the Commanders would be stuck with him as the owner until the day he, is no longer living on the earth. And I think that, all the controversy the last few years, I think they had something with sexual harassment of employees or whatever it was. They had something where there was another controversy I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but all these controversies, it left Schneider with no choice. It's kind of like the controversy of why they changed their name, because there was that controversy of the sexual harassment that came out, where I still think that Dan Schneider would not have changed the Commander's name without that controversy, because he was just so hell-bent on keeping the name as the Redskins, and he was so hell-bent on keeping that as the name. And when there was the controversy and he was about to be canceled, then he finally decided, okay, I'm not going to give up the team, but I'll give you guys what you want, and I'll give you guys the name change, and we'll change it to the Washington Football Team, which, honestly, looking back, it was a pretty good name. Like, I liked the Washington Football Team. I would not have minded if they had kept that name. And I think, like, Schneider was hell-bent on doing that, too, that he was going to, stick it to the NFL and stick it to the mob and just name it the Washington Football Team. But I think all the controversy throughout the years it just rode its ugly head, and it ended up, costing him the team. And I think Schneider, I still have a feeling, James, that it's going to fall through. Like, until it's official, until he's no longer in the building, I don't think Commander fans should be celebrating, because it could be a situation like yours, unfortunately, with the Angels, where Artie Moreno says, I'm selling, and he hires a search firm to sell, to explore a sale, and then months later he's like, nah, I'm good, I'll stick as the owner. Like, yeah, I just have a bad feeling that even though there is an agreement in place, that he's just gonna back out last minute. He's an incompetent, toxic guy, and he's gonna be like, screw you, NFL, screw you, Washington Commander fans. I'm just gonna stick it to y'all, and I'm gonna keep the team and not sell. Like, that's my biggest fear. But if he does go through with it, it's a miracle, and it's a great day to be a Commanders fan, and Washington Commander fans should be celebrating like there's no tomorrow, because you wanted this guy gone for years. It's like the Angels wanting Marino gone for years. It's like the A's fans wanting Fisher gone for years. It's like one of these toxic owners that you don't think will ever sell, but he finally sells the team, and you're just like, yes, we finally can start winning again. We finally have a bright future. And that's what this is going to be if he ends up really going through with the sale, because he's selling the team to Josh Harris, right? Josh Harris, that's one of the owners. And Magic Johnson, who, if you look at their resume of owning teams, they've won championships. They've made the playoffs. They've had competent teams. Like the Sixers are competent. The Lakers, the Dodgers, unfortunately, with Magic owning the team, they went from dysfunctional to a dynamic team. So expect the Commanders to be a force to be reckoned with if this sale does go through, and expect them to spend more money and invest and have competent coaches with this new ownership group.
So we're just 10 days away from the NFL draft here, 2023. I'm wondering what trades you predict will go down either on draft day or the lead up to the draft. And excuse me, for me, I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but Rodgers to the Jets, Jackson, I hope, to the Falcons. I know earlier we were talking about what was it? Derrick Henry to the Jaguars or the Bills. I think that would be awesome with the Jaguars and Derrick Henry for 1 year, along with ETN. I think that would be awesome. Buda Baker now put his hat in the ring to leave Arizona, the toxicity of that place. I could see him going to either the Raiders or the Patriots, somewhere where they need some defensive help. I don't think they'll go conference in a trade like that. So I expect that trade to happen. And then look out for Ryan Tannehill. Maybe the Titans draft up and get a quarterback or get one off of free agency, but they're trying to get rid of him. I'm trying to think of someone else, but I don't know about Trey Lance. If they're in for Purdy and they don't see much of Trey Lance, maybe that could be a deal done on your side. I always look for the Niners to be aggressive with all those picks. The Raiders with Josh Jacobs, he's not reporting to OTAs, and you don't expect him to. He's only on the franchise tag. Same with Barkley. That could be something too, with the Giants, but they want to keep him, but I think he feels slated only getting the franchise tag. So, what trades do you think will happen either on draft day or leading up to draft day, Isaiah?
Well, James, I liked a lot of the I liked a lot of the trades that you threw out there. I just think, like we were talking earlier, that it's too quiet right now. That there's some stuff brewing beneath the surface, and I think it's all gonna bubble up in the next few days, or in the next few days, or in the coming weeks, or at the draft, because it's just too quiet, and the NFL was never this dead quiet. So some stuff are happening behind the scenes. I can guarantee you that. So for me, I'm a wild guy. I'm gonna toss out a couple of predictions. I think that Trey Lance gets traded during the draft because from all the stuff that I'm hearing in San Francisco is that the Niners are really low on him, and that the Niners have basically committed to Brock Purdy as the franchise starter going forward. And I just think that Trey Lance never really had the support of the locker room. If you look at it, Brock Purdy has had more chemistry with guys like George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and others going to Warrior games. Him and, Kittle was singing about him. I mean, my gosh, during the NFL Honors Awards. They never really do that with Lance. Lance just seems like he's too quiet, and he doesn't really socialize with a lot of the players that are his teammates in San Francisco. So I just don't think he was a great fit to begin with. And I think that he's going to be traded because I just think both sides benefit from a fresh start. I think that, and the team that I'm going to say that he gets traded to, James, you ready for this, buddy?
Let me guess. Is it AFC?
AFC, yes.
Colts.
No.
Ooh, where?
I think he gets traded to the Houston Texans to reunite with DeMeco Ryan. There's a lot of smoke right now that the Texans are not in love with C.J. Stroud. They don't like Will Levis. And Nick Caserio, from all the people that are talking right now, are saying that, he's not in love with any of these quarterbacks. And when he's not
Bryce Young?
Well, I think Bryce Young goes to the Panthers. I think it's a slam dunk.
No, I thought C.J. Stroud and Josh McCown, the quarterback coach of Carolina, I think they got their pick already with C.J. Stroud. That's why I thought Bryce Young will go number 2 right away, and then you're good.
Well, if it's Bryce Young, if he does fall, then I think that they'll take him. But from what I've been hearing, the Panthers love Bryce Young, and I just
I
think,
heard different. Okay.
well, I think that if it's Stroud that falls, I think because there's a lot of smoke right now that if it's Stroud, Levis, Richardson that are end up the quarterbacks, that the Texans, even though they have a big need at quarterback, are going to pass because apparently DeMeco Ryans is pushing hard for them to draft the star defensive end out of Alabama. And
Yeah,
yeah,
Ryan's is a defensive coach. Yeah, I can see that.
and he has familiarity with Trey Lance. So, and Trey Lance, let's face it, he's a project, and the Niners can't really afford to develop him and let him play through his mistakes on a championship contending team. That's why I think Purdy's a better fit now for the Niners because Purdy's a guy that you can plug in and play and you can win right away. And I just think Houston, not a lot of pressure, not a lot of expectations. Lance can go in there, develop, and he can flourish and he can play through his mistakes. So I think Trey Lance gets traded to the Houston Texans during the NFL draft, and I think the Texans pass on a quarterback to trade for Trey Lance, and I think the Niners get back a early second-round pick in return for him. They're not going to get the number 2, obviously, even though I wish they will get the 2. They're not going to get the 12th pick, but the Texans got 12 first-round – or they got not 12 first-round picks. They got 12 picks in the entire draft, so they can afford it. They can afford it. So I think Lance goes to the Texans in the draft for a second-round pick. I think Derrick Henry goes to the Cowboys.
Oh, yeah, there's a spot available.
There is. And Tony Pollard, he's hurt. And he's probably not going to be back until like mid-season. And you know Jerry Jones loves his superstars, James. He loves his flashy toys. So, do we really think the Titans are going to get anything back for Derrick Henry? Like that?
Probably a 4th rounder or 3rd rounder at best, but it's only a rental for 1 year. So,
yeah.
I mean, Tennessee needs something though. They can't go without anything.
Yeah, I think he's going to walk. I think he's going to walk after next season because he's a free agent after next season.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, I think they're going to walk, or he's going to walk. So I think the Cowboys get him. And imagine Dak. You replace Zeke with Derrick Henry? I mean, that'd be crazy for sure.
You're not going to have that last play of the year again be like Ezekiel Elliott being the center, handing off to Dak or the shotgun. It won't be Derrick Henry there. I can tell you doing that. He's not stupid enough to let that happen. He's going to run through everybody.
Well, even if you do, he'll be able to block better than.
Remember, he's ineligible though. So he can't run with the ball, which I don't get that. How does Mike McCarthy not get fired after 2 years of bone? I know the 2 years before against the 49ers, that was all Dak.
That was.
But then you designed a play, and maybe it was Kellen Moore. Moore was like, oh, I got an idea. Let's run that play we ran in practice we'll never use. Hey, Dak, you get in or Elliott, you get in the center, and that's the lasting image of Elliott as a Cowboy. That's just crazy. So the comments that I have, it was all on YouTube, right, with my brother here.
We do have some on Facebook, though.
Oh, I didn't see them. You want to read them? I couldn't get them.
Yeah, but before I do that, I got one more trade for you, Jay.
Yeah, go ahead. I
think Devin White gets traded to the New England Patriots.
That could be a case, yeah. He's running his time his patience is running thin there in Tampa. Yeah.
And
I can see that.
Seems like Tampa wants to just tear everything down and rebuild. It seems like because they already lost how many players? Like they lost Fournette's gone.
But he sucked.
Yeah, he sucked, so they cut him. The kicker's gone. I think the punter's gone too. They also lost, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of secondary members as well. So it just seems like they want to tear everything down. And I know they got Baker, but Kyle Trask will be the quarterback midseason. I guarantee.
I want him to be the guy there. I really do. But they got to put something around him. And then Dalvin Cook is one guy to look maybe look at. The Bears might be busy with the cap they still have. But I'll read the YouTube comments at least. So Chris saying, my brother has all these. He's saying Austin and Ryu was like, white men can't jump. The Celtics will be 2023 NBA world champions for their 18th time. And he says the worst injury is Jaylen Brown right now with the index finger. I think the broken hand of Hero is worse.
Yeah,
and then maybe Morant's is worse. And Giannis, the importance to the Bucks, I think that's really worse. He's saying, yeah, now we're talking when we were talking Celtic talk. And then something about the Clippers or whatever saying not going to happen. So what was the Facebook comments? Again, I didn't see them for some reason. It's on IM6 or...
Well, I think it's on the IM6 Facebook page. We had, someone from the MI6 Sports Network. I think you might know who that is, commenting Devin Booker, who we're rocking with Austin Reeves now. Let's see.
That's all I saw.
Shout out. He says, "Go Suns." James is not going to approve that. I don't know if he's saying that Edwards says, I guess the Wolves are going to win the game 2.
They're going to improve to win the second game of the series. I don't see that, though. But.
Yeah, I don't. Chardot with a prediction. He says the Golden State Warriors will even up the series 2-2 in games 3 and 4 in San Francisco from the Chase Center. They'll steal game 5 in Sacramento. And
that could happen.
Yeah, it could, because the Warriors are really good at home. All they just need to do is take one road game. If they can take one road game, they're going to win the series. But we shall see, Chardot. Chardot is saying, how are you gentlemen doing tonight? I'm doing
ready
great.
for bed.
I think me and James are both doing great because our teams are teams won game 1 on the road, and also the Warriors lost. So how can you not be not be happy about that? He says, where is Loro Antonio? He's actually covering some high school baseball tonight, so he couldn't do the show. So that's why my guy James right here stepped in, doing a great job. And then Edwards saying that he thinks Trey Lance will be traded. #trade Trey. I guess the Trey area is no longer.
And that jersey you bought is non-void. Whoops.
And well, James, before we get to the college football topic, I just need to throw this out there. I hope he's not watching because he's going to give me nonstop crap for the next, year if they do trade him. But, when we were doing our NFL draft show a couple of years ago when Trey Lance got drafted, after the Niners made that pick, and I was, out here in my room celebrating. It's like, oh, hallelujah, the Niners are going to win the Super Bowl, yada, yada, yada. Cal McClurg, shout out to him, said Trey Lance is going to be a bust. And he said that he's going to be a bust because, he played at North Dakota State, didn't play against any good competition. He hadn't played, he only played one game, I believe, that year because it was the COVID year, and he wanted to get ready for the draft and stuff like that. He said he's going to be a bust, it's not going to work out, blah, blah, blah. And when I heard that from Callan, I was like, my thought process was, first off, you don't watch Hand Egg, so stick to the sports that you watch. And I was just thinking, man, this guy, he might be drunk, because he was drinking something during that show, so he might be drunk. But it's looking like Callan is right, James, that if Trey Lance does end up.
Now, look, the only thing is he got injured, so we'll never know his full potential. So that's why he might be a bust. But in a way, he still has a lot of time in his career. And then, again, he got injured. So it's not like he's a bust right now. He just hasn't had time to show anything. Yeah. That's the only thing.
And he might not have time, but we shall see. But, let's move on to college football.
College football. We have one topic somehow. BYU names ex-USC and Pitt quarterback Keaton Slovis as the starting quarterback for the 2023-2024 upcoming season. Now, I know BYU, they usually have an easy schedule, but Slovis, I know, wants to prove something. So what's your thoughts on your boy going to BYU?
Bravo! Because he wasn't a lock to win the starting quarterback job at BYU. So it's a good accomplishment that he did. But my thoughts on it is that I think that this is going to be Joe Burrow 2.0. Remember when Joe Burrow went to LSU after nobody knew who he was at Ohio State? He transferred to LSU, perfect situation, and he balled out, had a great run, and was the number one pick. I think it could be something similar. I'm not saying Slovis is Burrow 2.0 in terms of the talent, but I'm saying that, he's walking into a perfect situation. BYU has always had solid football teams throughout, the last decade, 2 decades even, and they've produced some really good players, and they play a pro-style offense. Slovis, played when he was with Clay Helton. He was really good in that pro-style offense his freshman year before they moved into another offense, which was the air raid. But, when you look at their schedule, if Kedon Slovis balls out and they, do what they do next season with their schedule, he's definitely going to be a first-round pick because look at their schedule. They start the season with Sam Houston. That should have been an easy win. He should put up big numbers there because, James, I don't know about you, but I honestly, no disrespect, I don't know who Sam Houston really is.
Well, they're in Texas. I know.
Yeah, they're in Texas small school, but they're also, remember, they're walking into the Big 12 next season, the new and improved Big 12. So that's the
BYU is?
BYU is, yeah. Next season is going to be their first year in the Big 12. Oh, boy. So if he balls out against this schedule, I mean, he deserves to be a number one pick. Like, you look at their schedule, Sam Houston, then versus Southern Utah. So they should be 2-0 right away. And then at Arkansas, if he beats Arkansas, that's an SEC team, right? And then at Kansas was solid this year. Versus Cincinnati, they made the playoffs a few years ago. Then at TCU, if he beats TCU, you're facing a team that went to the national championship game, and it's in TCU. Then versus Texas Tech, then you have after that you have Texas, John Alcorn's Longhorns. Then at West Virginia, then Iowa State, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State to end the season on Thanksgiving weekend. It's a tough schedule, but if he balls out, then I think that Slovis could definitely be a first-round pick, but it's a perfect opportunity for him to shine because I felt like at USC, with all the turmoil there with Clay Helton, then Clay Helton gets fired. I felt like he wasn't really put into a fair situation. And then at Pitt, he got injured, so he couldn't really showcase his skills. But now he's healthy. He's in a stable situation at BYU. He's going to be in the Big 12. I think it's a good situation for Kedon Slovis. And, for Slovis, this is the year because this is your last eligible year in college. If you want to play at the next level, you got to ball out and show the scouts, the teams that, hey, I got what it takes to play at the next level. But he's going to have really good wide receivers. The offensive line at BYU is not bad. They have a really good running game, which, it's a benefit to Slovis because he's the guy that can't really put the team on his back with his arm, especially not right now. But he's kind of like Jimmy G in terms of, you need a good system around him. And I think he's got that good system and a good running game as well as a great weapons around him for him to thrive.
Okay, so quickly, let's go to our baseball segment, MLB segment. Quickly, just say how our teams have done. So for me, the Angels, they lost 3 out of 4. They avoided getting swept today in Boston. It was a long, almost an hour rain delay, and then they had other delays going with PitchCom and the infield and the mound need to get dirt. So Shohei only went 2 innings, I think. And then the rain came. Then plethora of other pitchers came in. I think 7 others for the Angels. They were able to hold the game 5-4. They lost Friday and Saturday by 2, lost by 1 on Sunday, and again they avoided being swept at 4 by Boston. Now the reward is no days off until May 1st. 3 against New York in the Bronx during the week, and then they come home to face the Royals and the Oakland Athletics for 4. And then in the month with the powerful Milwaukee Brewers. And if you haven't seen Milwaukee this season, Tujang, Tellez, Yelich, Wingood, they have all the power in Milwaukee, and the Angels go to Milwaukee, unfortunately, to end the month. So right now the Angels are 8-8, 500, and I predicted they would go actually 81-81. So they're right on schedule. But the expectations, of course, are for wins and Shohei to stay and make the playoffs. But it's not looking good so far. They don't have – the bullpen is shaky. The runners in scoring position aren't coming in. They aren't scoring enough. I mean, they're scoring enough right away in the first inning. But then they forget to score the rest of the game. And it's just unfortunate. How's your A's and Phillies doing, Isaiah?
The A's are absolute rubbish. They look like the worst team in baseball right now. I think they lost again tonight to the Chicago Cubs. They lost on Friday to the Mets. After I said I don't fear the Mets, they went out there and lost 17-6. It was 7-0 after the second inning. The Oakland A's are a disgrace. They are a disaster. They look like a minor league team, a double-A team, not even a triple-A team, a double-A team in MLB. That's what they look like right now. I mean, they are 3-14. They lost 10-1 today. And the problem is the same. They can't pitch. They are a good hitting team. They're not bad when it comes to hitting. They could drive runners in. They got some good, competent MLB hitters like Aguilar, Aledmys Diaz, Jace Peterson, Ryan Noda. I mean, their offense get hit, but they can't pitch. Like every game, you look up in the second inning or the third inning, it's like 7-1, or it's like 7-0, or it's like 5-0, and you're already in a big hole. So they just can't pitch. And when you look at their pitching staff, their best pitcher right now is, I believe it's Adrian Martinez, or no, he got lit up tonight, so it can't be him. But if you look at their starting rotation, nobody in their starting rotation has an ERA under 5, which is god awful. Fujinami looked better on Saturday. He only gave up 3 runs, went 6 innings, was strong. I think he struck out 10 batters. It was a good start for him. Kyle Muller is up and down. JP Sears, he had a good start on yesterday, but he's been up and down. Ken Waldichuk had a really good start in his last start, but he's up and down. Just a lot of up and down inconsistency from these A's starting rotation. The bullpen is absolutely atrocious. I guarantee you, me and James could take a bat and we probably could get a hit off of these bullpen guys. They just absolutely stink. When you look at the bullpen, there's really not a lot of bullpen, like guys in their bullpen that have an ERA under 6. I mean, that's how pathetic it is. You think about, Familia. He's got an ERA at 4, but that's it. He's our best pitcher, and he's got an ERA at 4. James, I don't know if you want to say something, but you're muted right now. But
No, I was like, told you about Familia last year with the Phillies. I got to get out of here, but hey, thank you for letting me host, and I'll let you finish out the show. Take care, everybody.
It was great seeing you, James. Have a good one, my man. But yeah, the A's, they look like trash. You look at their the rest of their bullpen. Familia's our best pitcher. Danny Jimenez gets rocked all the time. Trevor May, we signed him to a 1-year, $7 million contract. He's getting rocked all the time. It's just not good from top to bottom in that bullpen. And the A's have a really tough schedule coming up. They got the Cubs today or tomorrow, Tuesday and Wednesday. And then, you look at the rest of their schedule. They play the red hot Texas Rangers in Texas this upcoming weekend for 3. Then they play James's Angels next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for 4. And then they play the Reds for a 3-game set. So tough schedule. And then that's not even the hard part of the schedule. You look at what's coming up in the month of May. You got the Mariners for 3, then the Royals in Kansas City for 3, then the Yankees in New York for 3. And with our pitching the way it is, I can see the Yankees putting up 15 runs every single game. And then you got the Rangers for 4. Then you got the D-backs for 3. They're good. Then you got the Astros for 3. So the A's are going to be the worst team in baseball this season. I picked them to make the playoffs, and that's looking like one of my worst predictions I've ever made in my life. So that's where that stands. But yeah, it's just not looking good. And I think the A's could end up starting like 6-30. And by the time, if it gets to that, if they're really 6-30 or they're 7-35, it begs the question: do you fire Mark Kotsay? Do you fire Mark Kotsay? I know he doesn't have a lot of talent to work with, but someone's got to be the scapegoat. And are you going to scapegoat Mark Kotsay if you're really that bad? Like you're 7-35 or you're 8-45. Like, are you really going to scapegoat Mark Kotsay? And I can see it just because, the A's, they might move. Even if they don't move, they are going to move into a new stadium in the next 3-4 years. So they're going to need a big name to draw fans in. And I could see them getting a Joe Madden or a Joe Girardi just to, draw fans in like the Raiders did when it was their final couple of years in Oakland. And they went out and got John Gruden just to sell tickets. I could see the A's doing that. So the A's are just pathetic. They're one of the worst. They're the worst, not one of the worst teams. They are the worst team in all of baseball. As far as the Phillies, just not good. Off to a bad start. They had arguably their easiest portion of their schedule. They're now 6-10, split with the Reds, won 2 games, lost 2 games. Now they got the White Sox for 3. The pitching staff is a mess. Very inconsistent starting rotation. The bullpen, gives up runs at a really high rate. The lineup can't really hit, and also they can't really run the bases. That's really concerning because last year they were really good when it came to running the bases, and this year they're making really bad mistakes like forgetting outs, running into outs. It's just not a good vibe right now for the Phils. And they got 3 at the White Sox, and they got 4 against Colorado this upcoming weekend. And they got the Mariners for 3. They got the Astros for 3 in Houston, World Series rematch. Dodgers for 3. Red Sox for 3. Blue Jays for 2. Rockies for 3 again. Then the Giants come into town, and then the Cubs and the D-backs, and then the Braves and the Mets. So they're entering their tough portion of their schedule, and I hope they turn it around because you're 6-10 right now, and then you're entering your tough portion of your schedule. This is a season-defining stretch for the Philadelphia Phillies, and if they want to get back to the playoffs, this is where you got to get it turned around. It's right here and right now. Going into our comments section, let's see. Edward Lee says the Giants are done. Lost to the Marlins. Yeah, not a good loss for the Giants. They blew a 4-0 lead. Wasted an outstanding start by Logan Webb. Lost that game to the Marlins 5-4 at Lone Depot Park. Just not a good outing by the by the Giants. The Giants, Edward also says, my team lost to the Marlins. Yeah, sorry, Edward. Maybe your team can bounce back tomorrow. But guys, great episode of Sports Weekly, but let's get into tonight's final thoughts. All right, it's been an hour and 53 minutes. We are at Tuesday night here on the West Coast. So we're going to wrap it up right now. Final thoughts. great show. Thanks to everybody for tuning in tonight. Thank you to Edward, Chardot, James's brother Chris, for tuning in, as well as the IM6 Network for tuning in. Major shout out to you. Great show. Thank you, James, for coming on and hosting the program in Low Roll's absence. Quick announcements. We are Batter Up, right? Batter Up. I don't know when's the next Batter Up. Low Roll's got a really hectic work schedule coming up. Me as well. So we don't know when it's going to be the next episode of Batter Up. But make sure you guys stay tuned. We're going to announce it on the page. We're going to have show announcements on the page. Batter Up to be determined. For Ben's show, Kicking It with Curse, I think we're going to have it on Friday. I might be mistaken, but I think that's what I was told. We're going to have it on Friday, so keep on the lookout for that. And also, Sports Weekly will be coming back next week for another episode. And also, you can tune into my page and also the IM6 YouTube for Isaiah Unfiltered coming your way every single day. Just short episodes where I give my take on whatever topic that we are getting into. But yeah, it's been a great show, folks. Thank you to everybody for tuning in to this program. Stay safe, stay healthy, folks, and we will see you next week for another episode of Sports Weekly. But until then, folks, sayonara, adios, and have a great night. But I said, if you gave me Mahomes, if you gave me Lamar Jackson with his great legs and Mahomes' great arm, or you gave me Baker Mayfield, who would I want? I would want Baker Mayfield, and the reason why is because Baker Mayfield...
I really think that now this is the worst case scenario for the San Francisco 49ers, is that they're going to have to cut ties with Jimmy Garoppolo if I were them. What? Oh my God! Whoa, man!
In any event, Kyle Gibson is definitely my NL Cy Young Award winner. Rock on, Gibson.
And even no way!
Oh my God!